What's up, family? Facebook folks, Instagram folks, YouTube folks, wherever y'all are catching this video at. I want to read something to you guys. I just shipped out some books today, and I was signing one of these, which is The Power of 50. We wrote this book about 3 years ago, and we released it on my 50th birthday, and it's written by a group of women, some of them first-time authors, who are finally telling their stories in this book. And I want to share with you, we opened the book with a really powerful story by an anonymous author, because this is her first time ever telling this story. And so I wanted to just come on. I'm going to actually read to you this first chapter of the book and her letter that she wrote to her father. This is a former client of mine. We worked on her being able to find the courage to tell her story. And, you know, she was very nervous about writing it down and putting it out there for all the world to see. And what we discussed was the fact that by her telling her story, she's been holding this story in. At that point, she had held that story in for 40 years. 40 years. Imagine holding on to a secret for 40 years. And you have to interact and engage with some of the individuals involved in that secret all of your entire life. And you have to try and move on, to move forward, to move past it, to move beyond it. But the story sits inside of you. The secret sits inside of you. And this was this young lady's first time telling this story. So I'm just going to read directly from the book. I was going to try and paraphrase the story and summarize it for you so you could just understand how powerful it is. But when I was signing the books today, I just happened to glance through and I was like, you know what? We're going to share this story on live. And hopefully this will resonate with some of you. I did a post talking about an offer to be able to be on my podcast and share your story. My thing is being able to provide a platform and a means for you to tell your story. I want you to find empowered independence, right? And empowered simply means to take authority over, and independence is your freedom. Take authority over your freedom. And that's what this woman did. But we agreed to publish it anonymously because she was still concerned with how it would impact some other people. But we agreed that the story needed to be told. So here we go. It's titled Forgive and Live Free. It said, this is probably the hardest letter I will ever write in my entire life, but one that needs to be written for me to finally start to heal at the age of 53. I don't know if I will ever deliver it or not, but I decided to write it for 2 reasons. First, because I knew I needed to forgive this transgression that I had been carrying along with me for over 40 years. I had gotten really good about keeping it stuffed down inside. I had kept the feelings tucked away so long that they had become part of who I had become. I liken it to an internal infection that you didn't realize was there. However, the impact from the infection keeps rearing its head in different ways to get you to address it. The more you ignore it, the worse the infection becomes. Secondly, but equally important, is I felt that there is someone else out there, just like me, who has found themselves in a situation or circumstance where they were violated, traumatized to their core, and when they reached out for help, the very people who were supposed to save them blamed them. I decided to share my letter to my dad to show you that no matter how old you get, no matter how long you've been holding on to pain, embarrassment, or shame, it's never too late to forgive so that you can live free and find love and happiness that you've been longing for. This is just a part of my healing journey, but I wanted to share it with you, and hopefully it can inspire you to begin your own journey. Due to the sensitive nature of my letter, I've chosen to keep my name anonymous, not out of shame, but out of respect. You see, forgiveness sometimes is about simply returning ownership of the pain back to its rightful owner. For me to do that, and for you to understand my story, my name is irrelevant. So here she goes. She said, here's my letter to my dad. Now, mind you, she's writing this to her father after being molested 40 years ago. And this is her first time. I actually think I was the first person she even told about it. So to let you understand the power of telling your story and how it can heal. So here's her story. It says, hi, Dad. You and I have never had the opportunity to really talk about our relationship. I guess we've just let the years go by and allowed our relationship to develop into how we have become today. Don't get me wrong, Dad. I love how our relationship has developed for the better throughout the years. And I love you with all of my heart. Always, always have, despite what opinions of others may have. You may not know it, but the years in which you raised me, though tough, instilled in me a strength that was needed for me to become the woman I am today. Without some of your words of wisdom, I probably would not have survived many of my life's experiences. But there's one event that I need to revisit, Dad. One that I know has been buried deep, so deep that I'm sure you may not even remember. Or maybe you do. Here's the twist, though. It was not so much the event that changed or paved, depending on how you want to look at it, my future, but the words you said to me that set the path for my future to come. I was 13. I didn't know him. All I knew was that he was the husband of my aunt, and he was not supposed to be there. It was summer. I was out for summer break, so you sent me to visit my aunt for part of the summer. It was hot, so like a normal 13-year-old, I dressed for the weather. Shorts, t-shirts, tanks, summer attire. Little did I know that he was looking at me in ways that he never should have been. That day went like every other day. Played outside, did whatever chores my aunt assigned me to do that day, and ended well. So I thought at the time. Went to bed as normal. However, this night went very differently. I was woken by a strange man at my bedside. Although I had been at my aunt's for weeks, he was still a stranger to me. He knew you, Dad. He knew you very well, and made it a point to let me know and made a point to let me know that. Why? I really don't know. All I wanted to know was, what was he doing in my room? What did he want? And where was my aunt? He told me not to be scared. Really? How could I not be? I was only 13. He was naked, Dad. He was naked in my room and telling me not to be scared. He began to touch me in places I knew he shouldn't. I started to cry. I knew it was wrong, so why didn't he think it was wrong and stop? Why didn't the stranger think that what he was doing to your little girl was wrong? To make it worse, he had the audacity to tell me not to tell you, Dad. Not to tell you. What? He played with my mind. He said you would be mad at me and said no one would believe me, not even you, Dad. Not sure how, but I must have fell into a deep sleep, and I was awoken to a banging on my door. For whatever reason, the stranger was putting a lock on my door. I walked into the kitchen to see my aunt looking as though she was not feeling well. Said she had a couple of drinks the night before. As I recall now, my aunt did not drink. And that she had a hangover. I'm sure you know what happened there. I don't have to explain. As for the lock, he explained there had been a few break-ins, and to make me feel safe, he decided to put a lock on our doors just in case there was a break-in. How convenient. Clearly, he had already gotten to my aunt, so I decided to call my other aunt, as I was not going to stay there another day, and I asked her to come and get me. I told her that I wanted to spend the rest of my vacation with her. At this point, I really don't remember the details other than I told my family what happened. No one believed me, and I was on a plane heading back home. A decision that was completely fine by me because I was far away from that stranger and a place that caused me great pain. I honestly don't remember landing, who picked me up, the drive home, nothing. Was I that numb? Shocked? Frozen? I have no idea. Did you and Mom even take me to the doctor to get checked out? Or did the next event happen as soon as we got home from the airport? I honestly don't remember. What I do remember shocked me even more and changed me from that day forward. We were in the kitchen and I was telling you what happened, and after I finished, I don't believe you looked at me. Were you ashamed of me? Not sure, but you paused and said, "What did you do to make him do that?" Huh? What? Dad, as I type this, my stomach is in knots. My eyes are filling with tears because I couldn't believe that you blamed me, Dad, for what this stranger did to me. He violated me. Your little girl. The little girl that you were supposed to protect from this stranger. This monster. But instead, you blamed me. I remember running to my room in tears and believed that I did something wrong for this stranger, this monster, to do this to me. Why? Because you made me believe that I did something wrong, Dad. Did I dress wrong? Were my shorts too short? Did I show too much skin? I was 13, for goodness sakes. What was I supposed to be wearing in the hot sun? Little did you know, Dad, on that day, how I viewed myself, how I viewed men, and how I felt men should treat me was formed. Now, don't get me wrong, Dad, and I'm saying this up front. I'm not blaming you for my bad choices in life, because at the end of the day, they were my choices. I made them. What I'm saying is a foundation was set that I struggled with and sometimes still do to get out of how I see myself. You see, I ended up spending most of my life searching to fill a void of love and acceptance that I couldn't give myself, and I looked for it in all the wrong places. You see, that stranger wanted my body, even at age 13. And I mistook that for love and acceptance. And that is how I let it find me, starting with my first love. This was the start of my search to find that protection, which to me also meant finding that love and acceptance that I was so greatly missing. Unfortunately, this search, as you know, has been met with many years of physical and emotional abuse and years of struggle. With every hit, with every slicing word from each abuser, all I could ask myself was, what did I do wrong to deserve this? Many times I have tried to give up on life, but God is clearly not finished with me as of yet, which is why I'm still here. Many say I got my stubbornness from you, and I know my willingness to never give up comes from you. I'm a fighter, and I owe that to you, Dad, because I have watched you take care of our family growing up. What I'm trying to say is this, Dad. I know you did the best you could raising me, and you loved me and protected me the best way you knew how. As you know, my last resulted in marriage. We thought it was the one, Dad. It was what I prayed for. It was different than all the others, but somehow it turned out to be just the same. Our paths crossed for a reason. Was that reason to bring us closer together, Dad? Because you and I have never been better. I do know one thing. The love I desire and need from me, I must learn on my own, and that lesson I now know comes from God. The reason I'm mentioning this relationship, because I recently sent my ex-husband a text saying, I forgive you. Because I felt that I needed to forgive him in order for me to free myself and move on. But now that I'm writing you this letter, Dad, I believe that my forgiveness needs to be given from the very beginning of it all in order for me to be truly free. So here goes. I forgive you, Daddy. Love, your grown-up girl. The Power of 50. When I tell you guys these stories in this book, they touch everything. This one was on molestation, abuse. There's homelessness in here. There is, trying to reinvent yourself as a woman, trying to find yourself as a woman. There's stories in here that encourage you, that uplift you, that empower you. But I really wanted to share that story because when I was sending out the shipments today, thank you, Candace. When I was sending out the book shipments today, and I it's funny as an author, a lot of times you don't read your own stuff, and so. But the Power 50 isn't just all my stuff. It's got other authors in there. And so I just happened to be, when I was signing the books, flipped through and I read that story from that anonymous woman. And I started thinking about all of our conversations leading up to her being able to find the courage to tell that story. And so for me, books, I tell everybody, like, if you have a story, you should write a book. That's why I do author coaching. The podcast that I'm starting in January is to provide a platform and a means and a place and a space for you to safely tell your story, to get it out. And there's some of the guests that we have scheduled that have actually told their story, but they haven't spoken their story. They haven't spoken it. So they've maybe put it in a book, or they might have put it in a blog, or they've shared it on a social media post, things like that. But they've never actually sat down and publicly had a conversation about their experiences. And as the author said in that story, there's a forgiveness that takes place within you once you're able to articulate what's happened, to process the story, and then you write the narrative for what you're going to think about it and how you feel about it and how you're going to move forward through it. And that's the process that I think a lot of people miss. So whether you tell your story publicly, you just write it in a journal, there's something cathartic that happens when you get the story out. Let's see, Candace, what about people who can't write? Will you write it for them? Yeah, great question, actually. I do ghostwriting. I'm actually in the process of signing a new ghostwriting contract for another author. And so the ghostwriting process I am so glad you brought that up, because I wasn't even going to talk about that. But the ghostwriting process lets you, we do sessions together. And so basically you're just telling me your story, and I'm pulling, the story out, where I'm asking questions that kinds of fills in some of the blanks. And we record the sessions, and then I take those recorded sessions and then create the book out of the recorded sessions. But the book, once it's produced, is from you. It's not, it doesn't have my name on it. So nobody knows that anybody ghostwrite it with you, or you can choose to co-author a book in which then we would partner together and I would help you with the writing. This is a similar process as ghostwriting. It's just that my name would also be on the book instead of just yours alone. I think it's an awesome tactic for those who don't know how to put it into words. It really is, because, you know, you get the benefit. There's a lot of healing and coaching that goes along in that process, especially when you're telling intimate stories like this. So the young lady that wrote that, initially we were going to ghostwrite that story. I was going to write it for her. But I really strongly encouraged her in this instance, for a variety of different reasons. But her specifically, I encouraged her to write it herself. One, because I knew she had the capabilities to do it. And we were just in a place with the story and where she was with it and where she was in her healing and her growth journey for her to be able to do that. But sometimes people can articulate things in a conversation with somebody that they trust that they don't know how to put into a book. And putting it into the book allows it to be out there forever. And so I look at books like, once you have written a book and your stories in your book, nobody can ever say you didn't exist. And that's just a weird thing. Maybe that's for me, and that was kind of part of my healing process when I wrote my first book. But I will tell you that writing these books it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's not hard. It's uncomfortable for sure. But it's transformational. And that's really, for me, for who I am and what I do, the Fostering Freedom with 9 Seconds for my DV org, and even for my coaching and my training company, I want you to heal. So if we put it in a book, great. But that was one of the reasons that I wanted to start the podcast, was because I knew that there are stories out there that people aren't ready to write. They don't want to write. They don't have an interest in writing it. But I know that there's healing value in it for them to tell the story. But I also know that somebody listening heals immensely when they hear a story that resonates with them and resonates with their experience, because it says, you know what? I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one. I'm not alone in this. I'm not some sort of leper. I'm not an offcast or an outcast or any of those things. It gives you a sense of inclusivity to be able to say, you know what? Okay, if they can get through it, I think I can do this. And if we can get you to the I think you can do this, then I can take you the rest of the way home to absolutely you can. And so for me, again, that's the joy in what I do. That's the heart work in what I do. And so y'all know 9 Seconds is my domestic violence foundation. So it focuses on domestic violence. But my training company and my coaching business really is all inclusive. In fact, we're creating a program now that's going to be used in drug treatment programs. So this is about, my work is about healing. It's about, because I know that the damage that's sitting and with that story inside of you, like I said, the lady that wrote that story, 53, and she's just telling the story 40 years later. Do you think, as she alluded to in her story, do you think that she maybe made some choices along the way as a result of the experience that she had because she hadn't told the story? She said, absolutely, I did. I kept looking for love. I kept looking for acceptance. I kept looking for somebody to validate me and to say that I'm worth it. And every single time she thought she found that, she was finding it in other ways. But each time she was just finding a new abuser after a new abuser after a new abuser, because that story still sat inside her. That story from that 13-year-old little girl, like I always say, for me, my 5-year-old little girl from the closet was calling my shots. Her 13-year-old was calling her shots. And so when you finally tell the story and you finally put it out there, and whether it's in a book or it's on the podcast or however you tell your story, once you get it out, you're calling the shots. Not the broken woman, not the broken little girl, not the sad little boy, not the scared little boy. You're the adult, grown up, fully capable, fully responsible, self-accepting you starts calling the shots. Because guess what? You wrote the narrative on the story. And y'all see me all the time. I'm always talking about when you control the narrative, when you tell the story, truth can't hurt you. Nobody can come back and say, oh yeah, you out here looking like woota woota woota, and I found out this about you. This happened to you when you were 13, or you didn't tell nobody about this. And not to say everybody got to tell everybody their business. You don't. But I'm saying if it's suffocating you and you're choking down that truth, get it out. And so for me, that was, again, that's what I do. Like, that's what the coaching is about. That's what the training is about. The podcast, the books, the blogs, everything that I do is about giving you a platform to be able to tell your story. Oh, Marcia, awesome. Miss Marcia Johnson, yes, you do have an awesome story. As a matter of fact, we still have that project we started on, and we're going to finish that up. I haven't given up on that yet for our breast cancer survivors. So we're going to finish that up. But yeah, your story, woman, let me know when you're ready. I will be happy to either help you co-write it, ghostwrite it, however you want to do. But yeah, you definitely have a powerful story to tell. So, like I said, The Power of 50, I don't talk about this book a lot. And that's on me. That's my fault, because this book was created to save lives. This book was created to inspire and to reach out and reach back, because every single woman who told her story in this book, whether it was about divorce, there's one about a lady who gave up twins, and she talks about her relationship with her twins, trying to recraft and recreate that family experience after you've given a child up for adoption. Another powerful story, guys. I just happened to flip it open. There's a quote here from Maya Angelou, and it says, "You may face many defeats in life, but never let yourself be defeated." And, Dr. Maya Angelou is one of my favorite authors and favorite poets. And, I consider her, at the height of wisdom, as far as, being able to come into my own womanhood. But these stories, love you too, Miss Marcia. But these stories, guys, these ladies came into their womanhood, and some of them didn't find it until they were 50. And that was for me. Like, I was like, I want to do something on my 50th birthday to change lives, to save lives, to empower women, to foster freedom, to give back independence, and you'll start hearing me. We're getting ready to start a whole thing about empowered independence. And there's going to be like Facebook group, all this kind of stuff, because the word empowered is to have authority. Independence is freedom. So you have authority over your freedom. That's what empowered independence is. And when you put things in books and you tell it on a talk show, or you put it in a blog, or you do a magazine article, there's so many opportunities to tell your story. And here's the thing that I for sure know to be true. You never know who's watching. You never know who's watching. You never know what they need to hear. And you never know what's going to save them. You never know. I was talking to a young lady the other day. She's actually going to be a guest on V2V. on my podcast, but she shared with me that she shared with me, oh, my light just hit the skids, but she shared with me that she was contemplating suicide not too long ago. And she said that she had the pills in her hand and she was ready to do it. She felt like enough's enough. It's a wrap. I'm cool with my time here. And she said that someone who lives in another state, another city, hey, Miss Lisa, but she said she was ready to do it. Had the pills in her hand. She had thought about everything and just decided enough's enough. I don't want to be here anymore. And someone called her and said, hey, just checking on you, that type of thing. Why don't you come out for a visit? And that phone call saved her life. And there are other stories like this, guys, where people, you know, sometimes God just has to shake us up a little bit to get us to see. I cannot fix this light to save myself. But sometimes God just has to shake us up a little bit to get us to see and to understand that our purpose here is bigger than what we think that it is. And, you know, when things aren't going right and money's short and, you know, you've been through some things and some shit's happened and you're just like, it feels like it's not going to get better. But then you hear a story like that, or you read a story like this, you read one of the other stories in this book, and you understand that if they could go through that, if she could sit on her story for 40 years of having anger and resentment in her heart and in her soul for her dad blaming her for being molested by one of his friends, do you think that your story or your secret or your experiences, because for most of us, it's not just one thing, right? So that was the story that she shared in this book, but she has many, many stories that go over the course of her lifetime that when we were doing our coaching work and we sat down and we talked about, like, this is who I am right now. Well, how did you get here? How did you become this right now? And when we were talking about it, we're talking about all those stories. And that's when we finally hit on it, that there was unforgiveness. And that 13-year-old girl was calling the shots for this 50-year-old woman. So all these years, that little girl's been making all of the decisions as it relates to relationships. And for me, I know for mine, it was a 5-year-old little girl that used to hide in the closet while my mother was being abused. And that 5-year-old little girl, same thing. She just wanted love. She wanted to feel safe. She wanted to not be abandoned. She wanted somebody to choose her because I felt like my mother had chose her relationship over me. Now that I understand more about how relationships work and stuff like that, I know that's not what she was doing, but that was the impact that I internalized. And so that needing and that wanting and that craving for validation and affection and security and safety and all of those things called all the shots. And so I would, if you liked me, boy, I liked you. If you told me I was pretty, then okay, it's on and popping. And at that point, once I'm in, baby, I'm all in. And it took me a long time, well into my 40s, to realize that I can still be all in when I'm all in. I can still go 1000% for you when I'm all in. But what I learned was I don't have to go all in. Everybody doesn't get that version of me. Every person who says I'm pretty, every person who says I got your back, every person who says I'm going to be in your corner, every man who ever told me whatever it was he thought I wanted to hear, now I know what I need, and I know who I am, and I know my contribution, and I know that I'm going to be just effing fine by myself. My mentor did a video a few weeks ago, and he said the bottom won't kill you. Well, everybody's rock bottom is different. But if you're ready, if you're able to tell the story about what was your rock bottom, then it didn't kill you. But telling the story allows it to become a platform. That's where you start building. Once you get it out, then you can start building on it. But as long as it's inside of you, it holds you down. But once you get it out, you can stand on it. You can always stand on truth. Truth doesn't need you to defend it. Truth will always defend itself eventually. People can lie, 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 lie. And eventually, truth will defend itself. You know, and there's also something to be said about the people who are eager to learn, to listen to and believe the lies about you. Like, I'm going to put this, and I'm going to wrap this up because I really didn't intend on being on here this long. But the people who are eager to believe the lies and the negative things that people say about you, and you spend a lot of time trying to convince them that what that person said wasn't true, or trying to convince them of who you really are, baby, listen. Hear me good. You don't owe them shit. Those are not your people. Those are not the people that you want in your life. So why are you wasting energy, valuable time, when, as you know, COVID highlights, we don't have an unlimited amount of time. We all got, every day we got 1 day less. So why are you spending any of the days you have left trying to convince somebody who is eager to believe that you're a crappy person that you're not? If you think I'm a crappy person, be that. I don't really care, because I know my character. Now, is that, hey B, does that mean that it doesn't hurt when somebody that you thought cared about you says you're a shitty person or you're a crappy friend? No, it still hurts. It still hurts like hell. Man. But once you come up for air and you think back and you're like, I know damn good and well I'm not a shitty friend. I know. And then you start thinking and you start looking back over your relationship with those individuals and you say, you know what? I see why you're upset. You're upset now, not because I'm a bad person, not because I'm a bad friend, not because I'm anything. You're mad because I'm not capitulating to your demands anymore. You're mad because I'm doing something for me now. You're mad because I have something else going on. You're mad that I have other priorities that do not involve you. You're mad that my association with you is no longer wrapped around what you want and when you want and how you want and what you need for me to do. I'm now scheduling my time and my life around what I need. That's what you're really mad about. So if you want to go out and you want to tell everybody that I'm a bad friend, tell them. Because guarantee you, the people who know me and who know what kind of a friend I am, what kind of person I am, the person that I thought you knew, they're not going to believe you. And if you do, that just means they're not my people either. Means I was wrong about that. And that's okay. I'll be wrong, but I won't be a fool anymore. I won't be a doormat. I won't be your stepping stone. I won't be the person that you could push around. I don't have a problem telling my story. I don't have a problem standing on my truth. All right? That's what the power of telling your story. Right, forget them all. Forget them all. That's what being able to tell your story does for you. It resets you a little bit. Lets you throw on your Dallas hoodie in Arizona and be okay with it. Exactly, Lisa. Protect your peace. Y'all, I live such a drama-free life. And some people say, oh, you work too much, you do da 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 da. And there are people right this minute. Somebody that I've known for years that thinks that I'm not being as supportive of a friend as they think that I should be because I'm not capitulating to their schedule. All the years that I fit into their schedule and I got in where I fit in, now when they have to get in where they fit in, they're pissed off about it. I'm okay with that. Totally okay with that. Man, what up, B? Oh, you're all right. Well, what? I still love you too. That's my birthday twin right there. Like y'all just have to get to a place, however you do it. I use books as a tool. I use my blog. I use my journal. I use writing. Oh, the hoodie. All right. I use books, guys. I use the podcast. And the podcast, I'm so excited about that starting up, y'all. You have no idea, because some of the guests we've already got booked. I'm just like, damn. Some of these stories, man. Yo, some of these stories. This one lady was a nurse, and she's telling a story about how one of her coworkers was dating another coworker, and the lady got off work, and her boyfriend was waiting for her in the parking lot with a shotgun. He worked at the same place. Long story short, the police were called. Obviously, you can't just have no shotgun out with the police and you in Scottsdale, right? So he ends up getting shot. Now his coworkers have to try and revive him, which they were unsuccessful at. I mean, when I tell you, telling stories, baby, you just don't know. You just don't know. You can't underestimate people. What an interesting perspective to demand emotions and comfort from someone who you haven't even asked how their day is going. They could be... Exactly. Oh my gosh, that is such a good point. And that's why I always say, like, you just don't know what people are going through. You don't know who's on the edge. Like, I shared that story about that other lady. Like, she was legit ready to do it. And it just so happened that somebody called at just the right moment. You know, if that ain't God, I don't know what is, yo. I don't know what is. But I'm going to get off of here, guys. I have a call that I was supposed to probably be on some time ago because I don't know what time it is right now. But, yeah, if you have, this book is on my website, guys, The Power of 50. If you haven't read this book yet, you need to go get it on my website. But the other thing is we're getting ready to do a volume 2 of this. So stay on the lookout. In 2022, we're going to start looking for authors to be in Power of 50 volume 2. So, all right, guys, that's it for me. Make sure that if you have not done so already, share this video out, because I think there are a lot of people that will be helped hearing that young lady's story that she shared in the book that I read to you. So share the video out. If you have a story DM me, inbox me, go to my website, 9seconds.org/V2V. Reach out however you can. Let's tell your story, whether you want to be on the podcast, you want to do Power 50 Volume 2, or you just need to talk. You just need to say, hey, like, I don't really know what I want to do with this. I've been sitting with this and it's irking my spirit and I need to get it out. So, but I'm here, guys. My team at 9 Seconds is here. I love you. I appreciate you. You're dope. Don't let anybody steal your shine. You know what? Shine anyway. People gonna try and block it, but shine anyway. So that's it for me today, guys. In the meantime and in between time, stay happy, stay blessed, and most importantly, stay safe. And I'll talk to you guys later. Love you too, Candy Cane.